Hi, this is Ashley with The Polished Engineer, and today I'm going to walk you through how to use the Square import template for your Color Street business tracker. And so this is a question I've gotten quite a few times recently, particularly for stylists who use Square for the majority of their sales. And so the question has been, how do I easily get those Square sales into my Color Street business tracker without having to manually input each individual sale? And so I'm going to walk you through how to use the new template that I built. If you only make 1 or 2 sales on Square every month, it may not be useful for you to use this, but if you're one of those stylists who's making 20 or 30 sales every month on Square, then hopefully this will be helpful for you. Okay, so we're going to start by going into our Square account, and if you go to the Square kind of home page, here we'll go back to the home so you can kind of see what it would look like. So this is your home page, and you'll see that over here on the side you have all these little buttons that you can use. And so we're going to click on Reports, and then once you go to Reports, then you can go to Item Sales. And you can see this says I have no transactions in this time frame, but this is kind of a demo product. So anyhow, you can come in here and click on here and say, what you want to report out. So let's say it's February and I want to do my January report. I could say last month, and that'll show me, well, in this case, I'm doing this in March, so it would show me my February report. You could do last year if you wanted. You could do this year. You could do this week, or you can come in here and type in your own kind of range. So let's say I wanted to do January, I'd say, hold on. If I wanted to do January, I would say 01/01/2021, all the way to 01/31/2021. And once I do that, then I'll update to January. So once you get your report with the time frame that you want, you're going to come over here to this export button, and then you'll click export, and you want this detail CSV. And once you do that, you can see my download started down here. Yours may do it a different way, but once you do that, you're going to click this open file, and it's going to open up a file for you, and this is what it's going to look like. Okay, and so it's got all kinds of information here. It's got your date, time, the category, items, quantity, what your sales are, there's customer names. And so this is really key because what's going to be important when you are using this template is that you want your items that are going to show up in here to be exactly the same as the products that are in your Color Street tracker. If these product names are not exact, and I'll show you what happens in a few minutes, but if the product names are not exact, it can cause a lot of kind of tedious little work. And that's why I say, like, if you only make a couple sales, it may not be worth it. But make sure that when you have your product names in your Square kind of account, that they're as close to or exactly the product name that you have in your tracker, and it'll make things way easier on you. So if that's not the case for the past, then that's okay. But if you want to use this template, then in the future what I'd recommend is just going in and kind of looking at your Square items and just making sure that those match what's in your product list on your Color Street tracker. And if they're not, then maybe update them. So this is what we're going to do. We have now our Square export that's out here, and then I've got my Square template. And so, there's an introduction page, but really this data input is the page that you're going to be working with. So you can kind of see this little arrow that says paste data here. This is where we're going to want to put the data. So we'll go back over here to our template, or to our export, and we're going to just highlight the whole table. And once we highlight the table, I'll right click and say copy, and then I'll go back over here, and where it says paste data here in this first cell, you'll right click and then do this paste values. And then you can kind of see something happens here. We've got item names that turn blue and customer names that turn blue. And I'll make this cell a little bit bigger if it will let me. Oh, it won't let me. Okay. So those turn blue because those are things that you're going to need to check on here to make sure that they match what's in your product tracker. So how does it know what's in your business tracker in order to check? It's pulling information from these two tabs, the product list and the customer names. So when you first do this, what you want to do after you paste in your data here, you want to come in here to the product list and the customer names and make sure that you have the most recent lists from your tracker. So what I would recommend is, let's say you do this monthly, after you paste in your data, then just go in and paste in the product list and the customer names just to make sure that you have the most recent ones in there. So we'll come over here to our business tracker. I'm going to go to the product list that's in my business tracker. I'm going to highlight those cells. I'll right click and say copy, and I'll come back over here to my template, and then I'll right click and say paste values. And then we'll do the same thing for the customer names. So we'll come over here to customer names. All I need is this first column, column A on customer info, and we're going to copy it, and then we'll come back over here to the template, and then we'll highlight this and right click and say paste values. So that way we have the most up-to-date lists in our template. Okay, so now I still have some of these kind of red fix me's. So what that means is that in this column, the product name doesn't match what's in the tracker. And so what would happen is if I went in and pasted this into my tracker, I would end up with an error. And we don't want an error in our tracker. We want everything to work properly. So we need to go in here and fix them. And so I can come over here and look and say, okay, the one that is not working here is smokes on you. And so I'm going to come in here, and on this drop down, I'm going to go find smokes on you, and I'll show you. Okay, so this is why it's not matching. So in your tracker, you have an apostrophe here. In this report, it's showing no apostrophe, so that's why it's not matching. But now I've fixed it, and so the blank that was showing up here in our product list is no longer there, so everything looks good. Same thing for the customer name. So we're going to say, okay, it's showing fix me, so obviously my customer's not right. It says Andri R on my Square template. That's what was exported out of Square. And if I come in here and I look at my customer names, I can see, oh, really, it should be Andy R. So I'm going to say Andy R. And then since I know it's the same customer the whole way down, I'll just right click and then paste values and get her in there for all of those correctly. And so once I do that, now my customer list has been corrected. All those blanks are filled in. So that's kind of how you would go through that workflow to fix anything that's not showing up. Okay, once you fix your kind of data errors, and let me pause here real quick. If you have your, so there's two ways you could do it. If you have a lot of these that are wrong or that are showing up incorrectly, you can either fix them in your product list on your main business tracker to match what's in Square, or you can fix them in Square to match what's in your business tracker. But you know, ideally you don't want to have to come in here and fix things every month. That's kind of a pain. So that's why I said try your hardest just to make sure that things match. And if they do, it will make things way easier. And same thing with the customer names. Like when you're going in and putting in your customer names in Square, just try to match what you already have in your business tracker, or vice versa. You know, there's a lot of times that you may have a new customer in Square, and so that person just isn't in your tracker yet. The name might not even be there. And if that's the case, you won't be able to find it in the list. She won't even show up. So that just means that you need to go and add that person's name into the business tracker so that you can then select that person in your list. So anyhow, what you're going to want to do from there, after you've corrected everything, is you're going to go over here to the Color Street transfer sheet, and this is the sheet that you're going to be pasting into your tracker. And you can see I kind of put these little tips up here at the top to tell you, okay, where are you actually pasting things, just in case you forget. Again, you can reference this video so that you can look and see, okay, exactly where do I put things. I tried to label them to be, you know, the same thing. That's what's in the tracker. But if you forget, hopefully these kind of keys at the top will help you. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to select, just the data. I'll select the data in the first 3 columns because those go in column A, B, and C, so I can select them together. I'll right click and say copy, and then we're going to come over here to our tracker, and I'm going to go find the customer sales tab, and then I'll go up to the first blank row and click it, and then I'll right click and say paste values. And then it's going to populate everything. We'll go back to our template. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the quantity sold column. I'm going to right click and say copy, come back over here to my tracker, and in column F under quantity sold, I'll right click and say paste values. And then I'll come over here to columns E and F, which are the discounts and the taxes. I'll highlight those, I'll right click and say copy, and then I'll come over here to my tracker, and then I'll come over here to the discounts column, right click and say paste values. And the paste values is really important because everything that's in here is a formula, and so if you don't paste values, it may show up as a random formula in here rather than an actual like product name, which is not something we want. So once you do that, you should have everything in there, and it should all work properly. So hopefully everything will show up. The only thing that isn't going to show up are kind of shipping that you charged for a customer. You know, if you put that in there separately, you'll have to go in and kind of hand enter what you charge that customer for shipping. And then the processing fees also, as you all know, Square charges a processing fee, but in the export, it doesn't actually give you what the processing fee was for that order. So you'll have to just go in and either enter the individual processing fee per order, or if you want, you can just go to your expenses tab and you can, you know, rename one of these. Like, let's say I don't need other, I could say the other is processing fees, and then I can just use that as a category and then just report out my total month's processing fees from Square each month. So like, let's say it would be 1/1/2021 would be Square, and these are my processing fees, and then let's say it was $30. So that would take care of, instead of having to put the processing fees individually for each order, it would be in my expenses. And then if you come over here on the P&L summary, you'll see where now it's showing processing fees in January showing up here. And then again, you know, your gross sales is coming from the customer sales tab, and so that's matching, and now everything's reporting correctly. So hopefully this helps. I know it might be a couple steps, but really if you are using it and you have your kind of customers and items matching correctly, it should be a really quick, you might not have any of these fix me, so all it is just pasting data in and then coming over here to this transfer sheet and being able to pop it right over. So this whole step with the data input and doing these kind of name checks is just to make sure that when you do put it into your tracker, that it's going to function properly and you're not going to come up with any errors. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and hopefully this will be helpful. Thanks.